Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time, where we take you around the world of soccer, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. Full Time is presented by the Game Sports Podcast and powered by 91 Network. You're listening to Season 4, Episode 27 of Full Time. I'm your host, Daniel Scarpino, and with me is our co-host, Gitano Gallo. Before we begin today's show, Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. With their 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you can download and access the Pizza Portal app so you can enjoy a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. A reminder, our listeners, that recordings of Full Time occur weekly or bi-weekly, and uploads to all of our platforms for public viewing and listening occur weekly or bi-weekly as well. Folks, we welcome you back to Full Time, where we get to be immersed in the world of football. A very happy morning to you, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. A little sore from a good battle at Superior Heights last night, but nothing better than waking up early for this. And glad to be here. How are you doing?
I couldn't agree more. Happy to be up and recording with you on this Friday morning, and I'm very excited for our show. It should be, in theory, one of our best yet. In today's show, we will look at Euro 2024 as we get to highlight the upcoming final. We will also be able to highlight the upcoming Copa America final, and we'll talk about the summer transfer market. As always, if anyone would like to listen to our previous content, please check us out at Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. And without further ado, Gaetano, and to everyone who has taken the time to tune in here today, let's kick off. We get today's show started with reviewing the semifinals from Euro 2024. We are just about set and ready for the finals this Sunday. But just on the semifinals alone, if you could sum up those games in just a couple of sentences.
Man, like, not entirely what we expected. I was expecting maybe a little more fireworks, and outside of kind of one wonder goal, not a lot of fireworks. Very, very much a grind. Very tough tactical battles. A different kind of entertaining. Maybe less for the neutral and more for the for kind of the diehard, tacticos of the soccer world. But I thought they were two really, really good games.
Me too, man. And again, it wasn't something that completely knocked me off my feet. Obviously, the England game that we're going to talk about here shortly had a fantastic finish. But yeah, definitely a goal in the Spain game, which was awesome. A goal in the England game, which was quite good as well. So yeah, it was good. It was entertaining, and some very good tactical battles indeed. And in those games, we saw a lot of changes between the managers and the team. So that was pretty neat. And what we're going to do right now is we are going to review those semifinals, and we're first going to start out, of course, with Spain and France, who locked up in the semifinals. France started out the match brilliantly, finally scoring a goal from open play just 8 minutes into the contest. It was shortly canceled out, however, thanks to that wonder goal that you were alluding to from 16-year-old Lamine Yamal. And then just 4 short minutes later, it was another goal from Spain's Dani Olmo who would put Spain out in front. And that was largely the tale of the tape, if you will, as Spain go on to win this one by a score of 2-1, and they book their place in the Euro 2024 final. This game had more than enough in it to create a good discussion. France are out, Spain are into the final. What can you say here?
I think this is well deserved for the Spanish team. Kind of the best way I saw it summarized was they were absolutely fantastic for about 20 minutes. They were very good for the rest, and that was more than enough to kind of see them through. Even conceding the early goal, never really looked like it bothered them. They bounced back straight away, which is a scary thing, conceding an early goal to France like that. That for most teams kind of should put you in a little bit of shell shock, a little bit of worry. But they just kind of brushed themselves off and, cranked it up a level. Obviously, that wonder goal is just I still don't really have words for it. To be 16 years old, Scarps, 16. I made the joke to you that if City signed him, got relegated to League Two, and worked our way back up to the Premier League, he'd only be 20 by the time we're back in the Premier League. This kid is just something I don't think we've ever seen anything like this. We've always seen kind of good teenagers who have a moment here, a moment there, but to do it on this stage in that fashion is just unbelievable.
Yeah, he was unbelievable and fantastic in every sense of the word. But to your point too, the Spanish really deserved it. I felt as though, apart from maybe those opening moments, they really had the French team where they wanted them. And we should probably touch on France here for a minute. They really didn't produce much in the matchup, as we kind of anticipated that they wouldn't do, I guess. And it's kind of been the case all tournament. The little chances that they did generate, nothing came of them. And Spain never looked bothered. They played their football, and they did what they had to do, and they did it in pretty good fashion. So I think going into the final on Sunday, Spain are in a really good place. By far been the best team at the tournament. I don't think that there's any argument against that. So yeah, overall a good game to witness, and the right team for me definitely came out on top. And next we had the Netherlands and England, who would battle against one another to see who would make their way to the Euro 2024 final. After the Netherlands took an early 1-0 lead, and that was a fantastic goal as well, by the way, it was an England penalty, courtesy of Harry Kane, that would level the score. A late substitution for England would prove to be the difference, as it was Ollie Watkins, who actually got assisted by another substitute, Cole Palmer. They both came off the bench, and Ollie Watkins scored that 91st minute winner, and inevitably sent England through to the Euro 2024 final. England defeat the Netherlands by a score of 2-1. Gitano, England rescued themselves yet again, somehow, some way. But speaking of yet again, it is England who are back in the Euro finals yet again for a second straight tournament. No matter how they got there, G, they did get there. I'll hand it over to you now to break down this game for us.
I said it last week and I'll say it again. They can't keep getting away with this, Scarps, and I really don't think they will in the final. We'll get to that in just a minute, but another, poor performance by this England team, rescued by late heroics. It's just not what we expected coming into this tournament at all. We saw the star power, we saw the individual quality in this team, and said if they've been making the final, they were heavy favorites to make the final and to win. They're going to play fantastic football. They're going to be great to watch, and they have just been awful. I was really disappointed with the Dutch in this game. It just felt like that rhythm that we've been talking about the last couple episodes that they've had was just non-existent. And I mean, I guess it's credit to England for disrupting that, but I don't think it was entirely on purpose. I think the Dutch just kind of. So I expected last week when we talked about this, I expected the English kind of raise their game to the level of the Dutch. I think the Dutch kind of dropped their game to the level of England. The goals were all right. The Harry Kane penalty, I think I had no questions about the penalty call. I thought that was, kind of obvious. There's no real discussion about that. The Dutch goal was good, but I will say that the Ollie Watkins substitution, first of all, the finish was fantastic for that goal. It was great. It's amazing what happens how much better England look when they have a striker who actually wants to play as a striker and not as a defensive midfielder. A guy who's actually willing to hold on to the ball, willing to make runs, do the work. And obviously Southgate isn't going to change anything for the final. He'd be stupid at this point not to. But I would say maybe going forward, Harry Kane might not be that guy for England anymore in this current system, anyways.
Yeah. You know what? You made so many good points there. I think on the game, England had a decent first half, not spectacular by any means, but it looked like Phil Foden was kind of back to his normal self. He was electric. He was all over the park. They created chances and things like this. And then the second half, they really faded away, I felt. But the Netherlands, to your point, the rhythm, the speed, and the pace of the passing and the tempo to which they played, that basically went out the window. And again, credit to both managers, I would say, even though I'm not a particular fan of either of them. They both had to make several changes tactically in the game, and I could see that in terms of build-up play, in terms of the way that they were both pressing one another and these types of things. So, yeah, it was a very tactical game. Was it the best game ever? No, not by any means. But again, produced some really good moments. I was happy for Ollie Watkins. I've always been a big fan of his, coming from non-league and then working his way up. That's kind of like the dream, if you will. But now England get themselves into another final, and it is a case of what's going to change. And we've been saying it all tournament for the better part of 4 or 5 weeks. probably nothing's going to change. But at the end of the day, again, somehow, some way, England find a way to do it, Gitano, and you just wonder if it's written in the stars for them at this point, or if it's going to come crashing down and burning to who, in my opinion, is a better side that they're matching up in Spain.
Yeah, I mean, like I know we're gonna preview the final in just a bit here, but like on paper, this is a very good game.
Oh yeah,
But based on this tournament, uh, it might be a slaughter.
it very well could be, and I think that there's a lot in it to kind of dissect, and we can go on about it all day, but we should really take a look at sort of the depth of this game that's going to inevitably present itself. Just before we get into that, though, Gaetano, do you think that this final has sort of the makings to be one of the better finals that we've seen in a long while, or do you think it could be, one of those tactical battles and then someone's just going to have their say at the end of the match?
I would really like it for it to be a banger. I think there's enough star power in this game that it should be a banger of a game. That Spain side is just like literally like some of the best players in the world. Rodri's had a fantastic tournament. Danny almost had an unbelievable tournament. He has a 50 million pound or euro release clause that expires like I think it's next week. I would be shocked if a major club doesn't activate that by the end of this tournament. And then, like you said, Phil Foden, Jude Bellingham, Bukayo Saka, like there's enough in this game that it should be. But I don't want to get my hopes up considering how awful this England team have played. And I expect them to I don't think they're going to want to run and gun with Spain. I think they're going to want to try and make it as dull and boring as possible. So, yeah.
Yeah, again, the potential is there. Will it happen? I don't have particularly high hopes. I'm going to keep my hopes very low just in case if I get surprised happily on Sunday. This final, Gaetano, and to everyone who's watching, obviously has a lot riding on it. There is pride, there's history, and not to mention the very small matter of being crowned European champion by the end of it. And according to UEFA Euro 2024 match outline, the odds-on favorite to win is Spain. They sit at a 40% chance, according to this particular outlet. England are pegged to have a 27% chance to win, and there is a 33% chance that this game can go to extra time or possibly penalty kicks. G, do these odds make sense to you?
Yeah, I think so. I think Spain should be the favorite, considering how they've played in this tournament. They've, like we've said basically the entire time, like they have been the best team of the tournament. They absolutely should be the favorites.
Yeah, and again, they're not huge favorites, but they're favorites nonetheless, and that's something that I definitely can agree and concur with. And to outline each team's journey in this tournament, Spain topped their group, getting 3 wins from 3 without conceding a single goal, in the group phase. In the knockout stage, they cruised past Georgia, had a nail-biting victory against Germany in extra time, which happened to be the best game of the tournament to this point. And then, of course, they beat France to get into the final. Gitano, Spain have been widely regarded, as we've been saying, basically all tournament long here on Full Time, as the best team at the tournament, not only for their style of play, but for the way in which they're winning games. What can you say for them this tournament?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's almost like single-digit minutes that they've not been very good, and conceding the early goal to Georgia, the early goal to France, the goal they conceded to Germany was fair play. Like that's Germany. Like there's no shame in conceding to them. But yeah, outside of those couple of minutes, they have just been on another level to every other team in the tournament. The group stage was kind of an indication of where this tournament was going. Just you picked them as your favorite team in the group stage, as they just crushed the group, almost didn't break a sweat, beating Croatia, Italy, and Albania. It was just, like they are just rolling right now. And they've not had, kind of an easy path. Like, a group with Croatia and Italy is never easy. Georgia put up a hell of a fight, even making it out of the group stage, kind of shocked the world there. Germany, my favorite team, going kind of into the knockout rounds, almost brushed them aside with ease. And then this France side again, like brushed them aside. This has been a super impressive run from Spain. I expect it to continue.
Me too. And it's, again, Spain has always been associated with this beautiful football and unique style of play. And they have done that this tournament, don't get me wrong, but they've also done other things that I've been incredibly impressed with, particularly from a defensive point of view, which we don't necessarily associate Spain football with. So they've been fantastic this tournament, a real pleasure on the eye, and totally deserve to be in this final. England have had a much different journey in this tournament when comparing them to Spain. After England won their first match against Serbia in the group stage, it was two draws that saw them top their group despite having some very nervy outcomes. In the knockout round, they rescued themselves against Slovakia with a late equalizer and then winning in extra time. They then had to fight their way back against Switzerland to force penalty kicks, where they would eventually win. And then, of course, they did defeat Netherlands in 90 minutes to get into the final. England have been underwhelming this tournament. We've all tournament been talking about Spain and giving them praise, and we've been very difficult and hard on England, but for good reason. But again, it's football. They found a way and they've managed to get themselves into a final, which can't really be refuted or disputed. What can you say about their performance at this tournament and how, in fact, they got here?
Yeah, I mean, the overall performance I would say is poor, and we are so hard on this team because they have the potential to be so good.
Right.
You know, like if you had picked before this tournament as a Spain England final, like the expectation would have been, yeah, like Spain did what they did, and that England probably did something similar. So that's why we're so hard on them, because the potential is there. It's right there at our fingertips, and Gareth Southgate just hasn't figured it out. But that being said, they've managed to kind of squeak and claw their way through here. And like you said, yeah, like it doesn't really matter how you get to a European final. Like the fact that you're there that's all that matters. They could play the worst tournament in the world. If they turn up for 90 minutes on Sunday, play phenomenally, nobody will remember what happened in the group stage, the rest of the knockouts. They'll be only remembered as European champions. Yeah, it's been a tough, well, tough not in sense of opponents. They've actually had kind of a pretty easy ride here. Their group stage was nothing difficult. Denmark, Slovakia, and Serbia. Yeah, like again, teams that they should have brushed aside with ease didn't. The late heroics, like you mentioned, against Slovakia, against Switzerland, and now against the Netherlands, like just relying, I think, slightly too much on like that individual moment of, okay, I'm just gonna have to do something here to win the game, mostly from Jude Bellingham at this point, rather than actually playing for 90 minutes and winning the game as a team. But yeah, in the finals nonetheless, deserving. I'm gonna say no, but really, my opinion on that doesn't matter because they're in the Euro final.
Right. It's, I don't know. There's so much there, and I'll first start by saying this: if this sort of performance and sort of discontent was happening, with example, for as a club at club level domestically, this would not be sustainable long term. But this is tournament football, and I would argue that it doesn't necessarily matter how you get over the line in a tournament, so long as you get over the line. 2004, I couldn't tell you how Greece performed in the tournament, but I do know that they won the tournament.
Yep.
I know that they beat Portugal in the final. I wasn't alive at the time, nor were you in 1982 when Italy won. But a buddy of mine, his father was saying they stunk the place out all tournament, but ended up winning that year. So it's one of those things that when it comes to tournament football, because it's such a short span of time, by the time you end, you're going to play 7 games if you reach the final, that is. Like you could string together some really bad performances if you've got good players, and like you can find a way to win. And I think England, well, I know England have done that this tournament. And regardless, they are here just in the same spot as Spain are, and they've played 2 completely different ways. So on a historic front now, for those who fancy this type of information, England have never won the Euros and have never qualified for a major tournament outside of their own country until now. This would be their first Euro victory in their history. Spain, on the other hand, they have won this tournament on 3 occasions. They first did it back in 1964 on their home soil when the tournament was hosted in Spain. And then they did it back to back in 2008 and 2012 during their very dominant period of football, when they were regarded by many as having some of the best national teams in modern football. Gitano, Do you think that history in any way, shape, or form is going to have an impact on this final?
Yes, I just want to start with like that 08 to 2012 run where they went European champions, World Cup champions, European champions. Undoubtedly the greatest national team of all time. Like to me, there's no debate about it. That era was just it'll never be seen again. Um, but really, like none of that group is part of this Spanish group now, so I don't see that kind of playing any sort of or having any sort of effect on this Spanish team. Whereas England, the majority of this team was at the last Euro final where they lost to Italy on penalties. I think that history is going to kind of, they're not going to want to lose that final again. They've been there. They've been on the losing end. They're going into that game. Those players are saying like, we've lost it. We know how awful that feels. We're not doing that again. We're going to win it. So yeah, I think the history kind of will play a little more of a factor for England over Spain.
You know what? Again, it's sickening how much we agree on this show, but I couldn't have said it better myself. I don't think that Spain is going to feel any sort of pressure coming into this. They're just going to go and play and try and do what they do, but they have won it before. I think that there is sort of this, I don't want to say unwarranted, but there is a lot of pressure towards England to know that, hey, we're in another European final. Should we be losing another one? No, we probably shouldn't. We should have been playing better. We finally need to get over the line and win one. So I think that history in some way, shape, or form is going to put some level of pressure on England, but I don't feel as though Spain is going to feel that pressure. And just before we get into our prediction here, Gitano, vote of confidence just came through for the England manager, Gareth Southgate, on behalf of the FA. I know we talked about it before with the USA. Vote of confidence came through for Greg Berhalter. Then he just got sacked. So as quick as something can be for you, it can be very easily pulled from you. But vote of confidence for Gareth Southgate on behalf of the FA that regardless of how this final turns out, and they said that in plain English, regardless of how this final turns out, so they could lose 20-0, they want him still in charge for the 2026 World Cup. Those are some very strong words. And I think that, as a coach, if you hear that, you kind of rest your shoulders a little bit, because if someone's saying at this exact date, this is when we still want you here, I feel as though he's going to be there. What do you think about that?
I think the timing of it is not great. Obviously trying to take some pressure off of him going into this final, kind of, so he's not kind of coaching for his job, because that's kind of how this tournament has gone for him. If they had been playing better, like if they had played, even if they had just played like all right, this kind of wouldn't be an issue. But with just how poorly the teams played, it's a massive amount of pressure on him. I think they're just trying to kind of relieve a bit of that pressure. I think it's, as not an England fan, sure, keep him in charge. Like if they're going to, continue to play this kind of mediocre brand of football, kind of waste a golden generation, sure, leave him in charge. I couldn't be bothered. But as a soccer fan, like, do I want to see this kind of England team reach their full potential? Yes. And do I think he's the man to do it? Not particularly. I think they could get much better managers than him. So I think kind of giving him this vote of confidence, saying like, yeah, 2026 doesn't matter what happens, not even in this final, but for the next couple of years, we want to keep you in charge. I just think that's a little much.
Could very well be, but like you said, it's probably should just take the pressure off a little bit, just so that he relaxes in his chair and rolls his shoulder back and these sorts of things. But regardless, this isn't about Gareth Southgate's job, at least not in the immediate term. What it is about is the final on Sunday. It is going to be Spain versus England to determine who will be crowned champions of Europe. Gitano, it is time. Who is going to win and why?
All right. So I've picked teams against England, thinking that they were actually going to win, only for England to win. Then I tried the reverse jinx, with the Netherlands game, picking England to win, hoping they would lose. So I'm going to go back to what I did at first, which is picking the team I actually think is going to win. I think Spain is going to win. Realistically, it should be pretty comfortable for them, just based on the form of this tournament. But I do expect England to, or not that I expect them, I really hope they kind of turn it up here, make it a game, because it could get ugly if they don't. We've talked about how good this Spanish team is. I really, really hope that they turn up, but Spain should, kind of regardless whether it's a great game or an awful game, Spain still should be winning it.
Spain should be. I like your line of thinking. I really do. And I kind of have to stick to my line of thinking that I have done this tournament. Reluctantly, I took England to top their group. And then in every single game, I kept saying, I don't know, they're probably just going to do it. And despite the fact that they're not playing good, they're going to do it. And I don't know how they're going to do it, but they're going to do it. So my whole question to myself is, why would I change now? So I'm going to take England to win it. I think in a realistic sense, if England win it, it's going to be tight. And I don't know if that means penalty kicks. I could see that, or extra time, or whatever the case might be. I think England would win that way. If England happen to lose, and your prediction is right, I could see this, and I'm not, doing this to take the mick out, or whatever the case might be. I think that this will be like a 3-4-0 if England lose. I think Spain will give it to them, but I am going to take England. And again, to your point, I hope that they turn up, and I hope that it is one heck of a final, because that's realistically at this point what I want to see, because I don't have a horse in the race. You will take Spain, I will take England, and it is all down to Sunday. A reminder to our listeners that the final of Euro 2024 will take place on Sunday, June 14th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. This, of course, can be watched on your local television sports network. And in the next episode of Full Time, we will be able to tell you all about who won the Euro 2024 final. The semifinals of the Copa America are all wrapped up, and the finalists have been determined. Gitano, let's take a look at the first semifinal between Argentina and Canada. Despite a good showing of grit and determination from Canada, it was Argentina who prevailed over Canada by a score of 2-0. Argentina advanced to the Copa America final as a result. Gitano, the way that Canada started the match, I thought it was going to be the biggest upset that we've ever seen, because Canada came out flying. They were on the front foot. They did miss a few chances. Game was kept level. And then, of course, you said it last episode, it's Julian Alvarez, and he was the one that, put Argentina ahead. And then in the second half, it's Lionel Messi, and he put, Argentina 2 goals ahead. And, a couple of defensive errors from Canada, not getting tight enough, the failed clearance to clear their lines when they were under pressure. There's a lot to dissect here, but the result is what the result is. Argentina go to the final. Canada do not. The floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, I just want to start by saying how proud I am of that team. Not even just for this game specifically, the whole tournament. It's like nothing we've ever seen from this program before. Going toe to toe with the world champions, reigning world champions twice. Losing really, 2 close games. The games could have gone either way. First major semifinal for the men's program, like just incredible stuff. And just hearing the Canadian national anthem played in the Copa America semifinal, like that's like I'm got goosebumps like thinking about it right now. Like it was just surreal. But that game was kind of like the nightmare scenario where you play a really good game and it doesn't matter because you're playing the world champions and they're just better than you. I thought Argentina was pretty quality on the night. And that's the thing, when you have a striker like Julian Alvarez, you have Lionel Messi in your team, like you give them 2 chances, they're going to score 2 goals. Like it's not rocket science, that one. And again, outside those couple little mistakes, like Canada played a really good game, had chances, created a lot. I thought, outside of those mistakes, like defended pretty well. Like there was not, my biggest fear was, a guy like Julian Alvarez or Angel Di Maria, kind of running our defense ragged. Like it didn't really happen. So yeah, it's really disappointing. Obviously not on the players per se, because the result, and knowing that you played, if we played that game against most other teams, in this tournament or in like world football, like there's a chance Canada gets a result out of that. But obviously, again, against a team of that quality, it's the reigning world champions, it's Lionel Messi. Like you can't give them those opportunities. But yeah, Argentina, I would say probably rightfully go through. It's semifinal of a major tournament. You have to capitalize on your chances. Canada didn't. Argentina did. Yeah, it was kind of the end of the road for Canada on that one. But yeah, I would say Argentina probably rightfully through.
Yeah, you know what? I hold my head high based on the performance, and it was funny. I was talking with my dad and then some of the guys that I was watching the game with, and we were joking, but at the same time not joking that Canada's playing the type of football that Italy wished that they could play.
Oh yeah, like that's so accurate.
Yeah, like the way they played between the lines, their combination play, the way that they got to get forward, excuse me, as a unit, their compactness defensively, everything that Canada did in that game, I was so proud of. And I'm only disappointed for the result. I'm not disappointed for the performance because Canada left everything on the field. But when you play up against a team of that quality, yeah, you got to take your chances. And if the opposition get chances, you know they're going to capitalize. It's similar to, I know it's club level, but Real Madrid. You make a mistake, Real Madrid's going to punish you. It's just the way that it is. So again, disappointed for the result, but as a Canadian and all Canadians for that matter, we could definitely hold our head high. To your point, I do agree that Argentina rightfully deserved to go to the final. The other semifinal between Uruguay and Colombia had all the drama, all the tension, the passion, the theatrics, even some fisticuffs after the game. Literally everything that you could think of. It's just Copa America in a nutshell. You gotta love it. Despite being down to 10 men, it was Colombia who find a way to get the job done over Uruguay by a score of 1-0. Gitano, this game was absolutely wild on every level. I'll hand it over to you for your reaction on this game.
Yeah, so like this, if you said like what is Copa America, like I'm showing you this 90 minutes, and like they're probably about 10 minutes afterwards.
Yeah.
But it didn't really play out at all like I expected it to. I was expecting Colombia to have a lot of the ball, kind of control most of the game, and Uruguay to just kind of be running them over, fouling a ton, just kind of disrupting things, and then kind of breaking them down that way. But it really didn't play out like that at all. Uruguay actually had a ton of the ball, almost 63%, which has not been Uruguay's kind of style of play at all in this tournament. They're the type of team that don't kind of need possession of the ball to win games, which is it's a weird thing to say, but just that's not how they play.
Yep.
But like just when with that ball though, they did nothing. No big chances created. Only 11 shots, 2 on target. Like that's super wasteful. Like you said, there was just nobody who was going to score for them. I did not expect this at all. And Colombia played really well. They could have easily, folded, mentally and physically the way the Uruguayans fly into the tackles. But they kind of held their all. Again, even down to 10 men, and at the end of the first half too. So they played the whole second half down a man. Just like super, super impressive stuff from them. The fireworks at the end, though, that's kind of like just Copa America, isn't it? Like you just having players go into the stands to fight opposition fans. Like it's just, I've got nothing to say. It's just, it's obviously like super unacceptable and bad, and we don't condone it, but it's goddamn hilarious.
Yeah. And you almost knew something like that at some point was going to happen. Surprised it didn't happen earlier in the tournament. But yeah, Colombia, I tip my hat to them. They were fantastic in the match. And, you've been on that end where you go down a player, and I've been on that end where you go down a player. And again, we're not playing professionally, but that is such a difficult thing to go up against for that length of time. And they held it out. And to your point, you said it well. Uruguay is a team that doesn't need much of the ball in order to be effective. It's kind of the way that Bielsa played, basically, is for the larger part of his managerial career. Even with Leeds, a lot of direct counterattacks and very quick patterns of play. So again, Uruguay, despite the fact that they've been tough and gritty in the tournament and defensively solid, they never really produced much in the attack, and it kind of bit them in the butt in this game. And Colombia actually probably had more chances to kill the game off. They didn't score them. But yeah, in the end, Colombia do get through. And I would argue rightfully so. And all the theatrics at the end just made things all the better. So, Gitano, to review those picks, we both had Uruguay and Canada. That did not happen, unfortunately. But regardless, the final that's going to be contested between Argentina and Colombia, I think that that's a very compelling matchup for more than one reason. How excited do you think that we can be for this game?
I am super excited for this game. I think, I not that I expect the brawling and things like that to happen afterwards, but I think just that level of intensity that we kind of saw in especially the Uruguay Colombia game, I think that's going to carry over into this final here. So you have like that plus, the star power that Argentina has, and Colombia has some too. Don't get me wrong. I think that's like just the perfect mixture for like a fantastic final. I really hope this one's an all-timer. I low-key expect it to be.
Yeah, the recipe is there, and it's just about assembling it to make the perfect game. And I think that could very well be on the cards. So it is, of course, all on to the final for the Copa America, Gitano. But there's also a third place match for us to look at. The Copa America, unlike the Euros, has a third place match, and in this instance, it's going to be Canada up against Uruguay, the two losers of the semifinals. So, we see the third place match, which is played at the World Cup every 4 years. But do you like the idea of a third place game in a tournament like this?
I really do. Like, first of all, it kind of gives proper closure, I think, for some of the teams. When you say, oh, like we lost in the semifinals of a tournament versus like, oh, we finished third in a tournament, like it's just, and it's not really much of a difference. Like, let's be real, but like to say, oh, like we actually won third place. We were the third best team in the tournament instead of like we were one of the third or fourth best teams. I think just having that clarity is nice. And I also do like the fact that, even though you lose in the semifinal, like at least one of the teams kind of gets to end the tournament on a high. And I've always said this, like growing up playing hockey, like I would rather win a bronze medal than lose and get a silver medal, like 100% of the time. So yeah, it's just, and it's nothing significant or major. But it is, like, it's a feel good moment for at least one of those teams. So yeah, I have no issue with it.
Yeah, and neither do I. And a lot of managers actually feel as though a third place game is a waste of time. I've never felt that as a coach. I've never felt that as a player, even as I know it's outside of the issue, but as a referee too, I see nothing wrong with a third place game. We talked about it when we were doing the World Cup in Qatar. When Croatia won the third place game, hey, I thought it was awesome. And like you said, it gives closure to understand, okay, we are the third best team, or you know what, we're the fourth best team at the tournament. I really like the idea of a third place game, and I don't just say that because Canada's in it. I would love to see a third place match at every major tournament.
Yeah.
So
can I just
sorry,
there's one thing you said. There was just one thing you said there. So Jesse Marsh has said that like he's going to use this game as as rotation. He's going to and this is an opportunity. Not that there's no stakes, but it's an opportunity for a team like Canada to put some different guys in a pressure situation on a big stage. That hey, like how can these because Canada don't have a deep squad. It's something Jesse Marsh talked about. He actually said that was one of the major differences in the Argentina game. But like a third place game is an opportunity to give a different look to players and say, hey, like this is a pressure moment. Like this is a third place match in Copa America. What can we do? There's no real pressure to win. You don't have to start your guys. You can do some rotation, see kind of your other options. So as a coach, I would absolutely love playing in a third place match, rather than just losing a semifinal and going home.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm completely with you. And what we'll do here and now is we'll sort of preview that third place game, because despite the fact that there's not a ton riding on it, it's still one of the last two games of the tournament, and our country is in it, so we ought to. According to Copa America Match Outline, Canada's probability to win this game sits at an incredibly low 16%. Uruguay, however, have a massive win probability of 61%, and the probability of extra time is at 23%. Canada, understandably so for the most part, huge underdogs here. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, like rightfully so. There's very few games that we've seen this team play, not even just in this tournament, where we've not been underdogs. So it's nothing new. Yeah, I expect a little bit of fireworks, like you said. Like Jesse Marsh is rotating this team. I don't think it's going to be. It's not going to be a full new 11, but I do expect some fresh faces in there. Maybe guys who haven't played much in the tournament or at all. I'm not sure what the Uruguay situation is with suspensions, or like potentially, because there was a handful of players that hopped into the stands there. So I don't know. I'm looking right now. I don't see anything about them being suspended. I assume that kind of if that happens, it would be announced relatively soon. But even then, Uruguay still are a really quality team. I expect it to be a little more of a street fight than a tactical battle. Just the style that both teams play. And unfortunately, I think Uruguay's just got a little more in them. Just defensively, they're so solid. I kind of expect that to be the difference. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think it'll be, a 1-0 or a 2-1, but I do think Uruguay are going to win.
There you go. And again, we talk about Germany's tournament. Canada came second in the group. They accumulated their 4 points with a win, a draw, and a loss. And then Uruguay, they didn't struggle at all in their group. All 9 points, 3 victories. And then in the quarterfinals, they matched up against a very tough Brazil side. They were able to beat them on penalties, and then they fall short to Colombia. So the journeys, despite the fact that they've been different, they both got to the same stage of the tournament, and that's no small feat. But they do go out nonetheless. You know, I take your point. I really do. And I've been honest this entire tournament. I said that Canada would come second in the group. I backed them to do that. They did. I said that they would win in the quarters. They did. I actually did believe, and so did you, that there was like this kind of quiet confidence about us and this belief that they could beat Argentina. They fell short. So I've been honest this entire tournament because I felt as though Canada would do it. I still have to be honest, and I just feel as though in this game Uruguay is going to win. Again, I'm not going to say, oh, yeah, I believe Canada is going to win when I don't. But depending on what happens with these potential suspensions, that could alter my thinking. But as of right now, I'm the same as you. Uruguay to win it. But despite the fact that both of these teams have lost their semifinal, they earned their place, of course, in this third place match. And it is all about the final that is going to feature, of course, Argentina and Colombia. Argentina got to this final by topping their group, getting 3 wins from 3. In the knockout round, they won on penalties against Ecuador, and then they defeated Canada, of course, to make their way to the final. Colombia made their way to the final by winning 2 games in their group and drawing the other one. Their quarterfinal match was won with real ease, and then, of course, they had to grind their way out of that game against Uruguay. Gitano, these 2 teams are in the final for a reason, and in your view, have these 2 teams been the best of the tournament?
I would say it's 2 of the 3 best. I thought Uruguay were fantastic. Just kind of based on their tournament up to the semifinal, I wouldn't have been, opposed to them being in the final and saying that they're one of the best. I think Argentina have been the best in the tournament. I would probably have Colombia at 3rd best, but like outside that, I'm like totally okay with this final in terms of the quality of the teams here.
Yeah, I think that is very well said indeed. And according to Copa America match outline, Argentina have a win probability of 42%, whilst Colombia sit at a win probability of 27%. And that leaves, of course, a 31% chance that this game will go to extra time or penalty kicks. Gee, the odds say what the odds say, but what can you make of that?
Yeah, I think the odds are again pretty accurate here. Argentina should be favorites. We don't have to run through the lineup every time we talk about this, but it's Messi and co. They should be favorites.
Yeah, and again, very well said indeed. And I actually am surprised that there may be not a little bit more favorites, but nonetheless, favorites they are. On a historic front, Argentina have won a joint record 15 Copa America titles and reached the final 6 times in the past 8 editions of this tournament. Colombia, on the other hand, had played their last final in 2001, beating Mexico to win their only Copa America title. Gee, 2 very different sides of the coin here when we talk about accomplishments at this tournament. Again, we talked about it with the Euros. Is that going to mean much when we go and see them take the field Sunday night?
I think it's going to be 2 very different types of pressure. Starting with Argentina, this is a group where a lot of them are, actual reigning world champions, the reigning Copa America champions. So the pressure is going to be on them to, retain their titles, prove that they are still the best, in North and Central and South America. Whereas this Colombia team is facing kind of a different kind of pressure of being the first champion since 2001. Again, obviously nobody from that group is part of this group, but it's just a very different kind of pressure for them.
It really is. And, we take that pressure as it comes, and so will the players and all of these sorts of things. But regardless of that, again, history doesn't win football matches. What you do on the pitch does. So, Gitano, is it going to be Argentina or Colombia by the end of Sunday night who is going to be crowned champions of Copa America?
I can't bet against Messi and Argentina. I think they are the best team this tournament, and I think they will win it.
Yeah, I don't. I did try and think of a way that Colombia could do it. To be honest, I'm the same as you. I'd hate to make the same prediction. But I'm going to have to. I also believe that Argentina just has too much in that squad, and you can't, bet against, again, Messi and company. You just can't. So we're both going to take Argentina, and hopefully it will be played out as a fantastic match, one for the ages. A reminder to our listeners that the third place match will be played this Saturday, July 13th, and the final of Copa America will also be played on Sunday, July 14th. Both games will be at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on your local television sports network. And just like the Euros, in our next episode of Full Time, we'll be able to highlight the winners of the third place match and the winner of the Copa America final. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you're listening to Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. You can download and access the Pizza Portal app for any of the 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Have a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. The summer transfer market goes on, and we will be highlighting some of the recent moves which have taken place in the world of football. The following transfer market news comes from The Guardian, so to be sure, to check them out as they provide up-to-the-minute transfer market news. First, it's Michael Olise, who goes from Crystal Palace to Bayern Munich for a fee of $45 million. Linked to Chelsea and Manchester United, the 22-year-old opts for a move to Bayern instead of a long contract elsewhere. Gitano, Olise completes his move to Bayern Munich with the hope of targeting trophies. What do you make of this one?
Well, if he went there to win trophies, he made a mistake because Harry Kane plays for Bayern Munich. But in all seriousness, I really like this move kind of for both parties, and even for Crystal Palace, for 3 parties. Getting $45 million for them is huge. Obviously, Bayern Munich get a quality player, and Michael Olise kind of gets to make a massive step up in his career. He's been super impressive. He's been a pain in my ass as a City fan. He's that threat on the counter when we play Palace. I'm really glad that he's gone. In that sense. But he's just a quality player. I think this is a great move all around.
Me too. He's a quality player entering into a quality team, and I think that Bayern Munich will find a place for him, and I do believe that he will thrive there. Max Kilman goes from the Wolverhampton Wanderers to West Ham United for a fee of $40 million. The 27-year-old says that he is looking forward to working with the manager after their time together at Wolves. The defender signs a 7-year deal. Is this a thumbs up or a thumbs down for you?
And this is like a thumbs like 3/4 up. Like he's fine. I think the fees may be a little much, but that's just how the market works for English players transferring in the Premier League in this era. Like you're just not going to get, a Premier League, English Premier League player, for kind of less than that. I think it's all right. I think it's, I think when his contract is up in 7 years, they're going to look back and say, we probably got our 40 million worth. He's not going to light the world on fire, but he's not going to be a dumpster fire either. I think it's going to be just an all right move.
Yeah, I think all right sounds about all right. I'm sideways. I don't expect much from West Ham this season. We'll, in a couple of episodes, we're going to be previewing the Premier League. But yeah, a lot of changes there with manager and with players. So I think for the next short while anyways, it's not going to be fantastic. But yeah, to your point, 7 years down the road, the money could be worth it. Moussa Niakate goes from Nottingham Forest to Lyon for a fee of $27 million. The center back joins Lyon after back-to-back impressive seasons. How do you like this one?
Yeah, I think this is a good step up for him. I think it's going to hurt Nottingham Forest. I thought he was, pretty decent for them last year. But yeah, I don't hate this move. I think the fees may be a little much, but that's, it's not my money being spent, so I don't really care in that aspect. But yeah, I think this is a really good step up for him. Get, hopefully back into European football with Lyon. Yeah, I like this move.
Yeah, for his career, I think this is the right step to make. But Nottingham Forest, and again, we'll talk about it in shows to come, they're going to have to do a lot with that squad to make sure that they can avoid relegation this upcoming season. David Raya goes from Brentford to Arsenal for $27 million. The keeper makes his loan move permanent after replacing Aaron Ramsdale as the Gunners' number 1 and winning the Premier League Golden Glove last season. Blackburn will also get a cut of $3 million from the deal. Again, this was inevitable. I don't think there's too much to talk about here, but what are your thoughts?
I mean, like, you're the Arsenal fan. Like, I really should be leaving the floor to you for this. I think we knew it was coming, so it's nothing shocking, right?
No, it was just a matter of putting pen to paper, but we all knew that it was coming, and David Raya officially is with Arsenal, no more loan stuff, and he is solidified as the number 1. Mats Weifer goes from Feyenoord to Brighton for 25.6 million. The Seagulls signed one of Europe's best deep-lying midfielders on a 5-year deal and a record sale for the Eredivisie Giants. Gitano, do you like this move?
I do. I think, with Pascal Gross at this age, he's moving on. Kind of bringing in someone who's going to control their midfield is super important. And Brighton have just, for the last, I'd say, maybe 6-7 years, just their business is always, or not, maybe not always, but for the most part, it's really, really good. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know so much about Mats Weifer and I've watched Eredivisie a ton. But the fact that he has, he's getting that move to Brighton, it almost like comes with a stamp of approval. Like he's at least pretty good. So I'm excited to see kind of what he can do in the Premier League. 24 years old, so still plenty of room to kind of grow and develop. I like this move.
I like this move too, and I like it with time. Again, 5-year deal. There's time for him to grow. He is still quite young. But to have that title, one of the best deep-lying midfielders in Europe, that's a big show. So I am excited to see what he does with Brighton, and he's definitely chosen a good club where he can develop. Archie Gray goes from Leeds United to Tottenham Hotspur for 25 million. Leeds is heartbroken to lose their homegrown star and championship young player of the year, whose fee could rise to 30 million. Gitano, was this the right move for Archie Gray?
I'm not quite sold on it. I think that the last championship young player of the year fullback to go to Spurs, and mind you, it is a different era, different managers and everything. But Ryan Sessegnon is, fallen off the face of the earth when he was, kind of the next, big thing for England. I'm not sure kind of if this is the right time to be moving to Tottenham as an 18-year-old. It's still not, and not that you want to, join them too old. But I just think like they're still kind of building their identity, still kind of trying to figure out their identity. I don't know how much an 18-year-old is going to be able to kind of, contribute to that. And where he's really going to be put in a situation where he, as an 18-year-old with no Premier League experience, like is going to be able to kind of not be protected, but you don't want to just throw him to the wolves, every week and kind of, if it goes terribly, destroy his confidence and ruin him. So yeah, I don't particularly like this deal, but I also could be really wrong. He's, a promising young player. And there's as much of a chance that he, shows up and is fantastic, in the system, establishes himself and kind of helps Spurs establish their identity. But I would lean towards it maybe not going that way.
I'm going to be a bit stronger than you, and I don't say this because it's Spurs. I would say this if it was any club, in fact, Arsenal, wherever. I don't think that this is a good move at this moment in time for him. Again, you want to talk about biting off more than you can chew. I'm not suggesting that he is, but again, as an 18-year-old, you could become immersed in something that might be a little bit too big for you at this moment in time. And sometimes smaller steps are better than the bigger steps, especially when you go to a club like Spurs, who, again, obviously I don't like Spurs with, any part of me, but they have a lot of turmoil at that club. They have a lot of things that need to get sorted out. And the manager has already come forth and said that. I think that he's stepping into, some very turgid waters and some very tough scenarios and situations. But hopefully for his sake, it works out. But if it doesn't, I wouldn't be too surprised. And as always, we did not cover every single transfer that has taken place this window. Are there any that we left out, Gitano, that caught your eye?
So it was actually just announced this morning that Sergio Gomez has left Manchester City to Real Sociedad for about 8.5 million euros with some add-ons and some other kind of things, the business end of it kind of attached to it. He's still young, still only 23. It's tough being a Pep Guardiola fullback, especially considering he's kind of changed his philosophy from the bombing up and down the wings fullback to just finding 4 of the biggest dudes he can find who can pass the ball and stick them in the back line. So it was just kind of never really going to work out. But he did grow up as a City fan, got to live the dream, win a treble, on about 40 appearances for the club, scored a couple goals. Like, can't really ask for much more.
No, he's lived his dream, and now he moves on to pastures new, and I'm sure that he will make good with where he goes next. And as the summer continues, you can get all of the biggest transfer market news right here on Full Time. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you're listening to Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. You can download and access the Pizza Portal app for any of the 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Have a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Full Time. As today's show comes to a close, we want to thank you all for being with us. Your support means everything. G, well done this morning, my friend.
Yeah, well done to you as well. It's a perfect kind of day to start the day. Perfect way to start the day, I should say. Going to work after this is definitely going to be a bit of a step down, but glad we got to get this out.
Me too, man. A reminder to our listeners that the next episode of Full Time will be recorded the week of July 15th, 2024. In that show, we will look at the summer transfer market, the Euro 2024 final, and the Copa America final. As always, we will keep everyone in the loop with all of the happenings in the world of football. For weekly content, make sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe to all platforms of both the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Podbean. For Gitano Gallo, my name is Daniel Scarpino, and thank you for tuning in to Full Time. We look forward to seeing you at kickoff next time back here on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. Best always.